What is up? It's week one. It's time to get those lineups set up. We've got inactives rolling in. We've got shocked faces on Addison and Jeff.
I'm so excited.
And we have a lot to talk about. You need to hear this before you set your lineup right here. Jeff, you mentioned one right before we get started. Let's go ahead and talk about it. What just happened that I just saw shock on your face? What is it?
Just dropped. Zach Moss is listed as inactive today. So get him out of your lineups and my buddy just texted me, Trey Sermon.
Trey Sermon is inactive.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh, the Raheem Mostert against Detroit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about we're going to talk about both those things in just a couple of minutes. Before we do, we've got one question that I want to ask you guys as we go through this. This came in as we were talking or as we were getting set up for the show. This came in from your buddy, fellow 49er fan, Jeff Abercrombie. He wants to know if he should be benching David Montgomery this week, or is this a start your studs? Down 70, so he needs a big week. I guess he was facing like CeeDee Lamb, Antonio Brown, and Dak, maybe something like that.
Yeah, Dak Amari. That's 70 right there.
Monty, Debo, Corey Davis, Robbie Anderson, Chase Claypool. He does have Big Ben, which I do think adds important context if you're down 70. Addison, what do you think?
I think you have to play Chase Claypool. You got that Big Ben stack. You're hoping that Chase Claypool goes off. You know, obviously the Steelers are going to have to throw against Buffalo just to play catch up. This is probably going to be just like the Dallas Cowboys Tampa Bay game was in terms of scoring potential. So I would definitely be playing Chase Claypool as a swing for the fence. I would probably just be playing Monty just because he has the touch and the volume floor that should potentially also give you some upside as well. And then, man, that third one between Debo, Corey Davis, and Robbie Anderson. My fear with Debo is that the Niners don't need him. They're playing Detroit. I don't even think they need to pass. Like, this could be a Jimmy Garoppolo throws eight passes all game type situation. So that's my biggest fear with Debo, is that he gets game scripted out early. So if he doesn't produce early, you're stuck. Corey Davis, I think, might be a good play as well, especially because Jamison Crowder's out. Denzel Mims isn't it. So it's really Corey Davis and Elijah Moore as the wide receivers for the Jets today against Carolina. So I might, honestly, my third one might be Corey Davis and try to trust in the volume that we saw in the preseason, that connection that we saw between Zach Wilson and Corey Davis, even without Elijah Moore. And Elijah Moore is playing today, but trust in that volume and that connection.
Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Claypool and Monty, I agree. Those two are the two where I look at this and say, okay, I'm absolutely starting those two. Out of Debo, Corey Davis, and Robbie Anderson. Robbie's tempting for the revenge game. For me, I think it's Corey Davis versus Robbie Anderson for exactly what Addison said. Yeah, that's tough. I might go Corey Davis. Yeah.
My answer was Chase Claypool for the exact same reasons that's the easy one, I think, for all of us. Montgomery against that Rams team, I just think that could get too ugly for him to ultimately factor in as much. And if I want to look at this in terms of like what's the most likely case for him to get 70 points, a shootout in Carolina against Carolina and the Jets would be his best case scenario. So I said Robbie Anderson and Corey Davis there because hopefully they just keep throwing the ball and they have to keep trying to keep up with each other. And so that, to me, that would be the way that I would go with that. But fair enough. I think all those Jeff, you just got to decide on which one of these you like the best. Jeff Abercrombie, that's it. That is. So go with that. Kevin Bacon is excited that we're doing this today. And if you're like any of these guys that we're about to pull up right here, go ahead and get in your questions and we will answer them. Let's go ahead and address something right now, though, that just came. We just talked about it. Zach Moss and Trey Sermon inactive. Addison, what's the fallout from Zach Moss in particular? That obviously, I guess, means a bigger role for Devin Singletary, but we've also seen the Bills just line up and throw it on every down too. So How do you think this works out for the Bills and their offense today?
I think that second part is it. I mean, this could realistically be what we saw from Dallas Thursday night, where Devin Singletary isn't really going to help the Bills win a game, and especially against a really, really good Pittsburgh Steelers defense and rush defense. We could realistically, I think, just see Josh Allen throw 45, 50 times. And if that's the case, like Stephon Diggs could go off. I think that really makes, even with Emmanuel Sanders playing, I think that makes Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley viable, safe floor options, especially in PPR. So I think that this is just going to be like a massive passing game volume that we're about to see right now out of the Buffalo Bills with Zach Moss inactive. And if you have Josh Allen and they get down towards the goal line, he's probably going to be the one to run it in, not Devin Singletary. So
what about Matt Breida? Do you think Matt Breida sees an uptick in snaps?
Does it matter?
I mean, man, I was not expecting that with Zach Moss. I legitimately did not. That's a surprise. When you say surprise inactives, man, that one is huge. Jeff, your 49ers, Trey Sermon is inactive. Who is active in the backfield?
Yeah, this is shocking. They must be going. Well, one, this tells me I think Trey Lance gets some runs in there today. You're not starting Trey Lance in fantasy though. It would be Raheem Mostert, who's absolutely a must start. He already was, in my opinion. And then I think this makes JaMychal Hasty kind of tempting because I don't anticipate the Lions playing from. I anticipate them playing from behind, and I don't think Elijah Mitchell is going to be thrown out there. So they have Mostert, JaMychal Hasty, and Elijah Mitchell. This is surprising though.
For Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
Is Elijah Mitchell, is he active?
He's not on the inactives.
Wow. So he is active and Trey Sermon is not. That is interesting. We have to assume both of those are healthy inactives, right?
Yeah, Sermon was dealing with an ankle sprain, but as far as I knew, over the last week and a half, he was cleared from that, unless he had a setback.
Wow. We'll continue to talk about the fallout from that. Greg chimes in from Facebook. He wants to know if we're starting Justin Herbert or Justin Herbert versus the Washington D or Sam Darnold against the Jets. What are we thinking, Addison?
I'm so against Sam Darnold. I think this is Justin Herbert, even against Washington. It's the better quarterback, better weapons, and Keenan Allen. Austin Eckler is active. I just got the alert for that as well. So whatever he can support and provide for Justin Herbert out of the backfield, they might need to pass more in this game kind of as well, just because of how good Washington's front seven and run defense is too. So, I think you should just play Justin Herbert, and I think we're gonna find out real quick if it was Sam Darnold or if it was Adam Gase. Like, we're gonna find that out real fast today. So
love the revenge game early. Him and Robbie Anderson playing New York again. Love to see that. And I think there's gonna be a little bit extra motivation there. I don't know that I can actually put Justin Herbert on my bench and have Sam Darnold in. I don't know if I could justify that. If I can live with myself, if it doesn't go the right way, I'll be beating myself up pretty bad on Monday night. But if I lose my matchup that way. Jeff, what do you think? How are we doing on this question? And just, go ahead, and anything else that you're seeing rolling in on as far as inactives, go ahead and talk about that. And if you're in the chat and you're watching this and you've got questions about injuries, you're not sure about certain players, Jeff and I did record a video about all of them yesterday, but any specific questions, we can take those as well. Jeff, go ahead on this and anything else that you're seeing.
Yeah, this is a situation of start your stud. You're not benching Justin Herbert no matter what the matchup is. If it's two quarterback, I do like Sam Darnold as a play, but yeah, if it's one quarterback, you're not playing Herbert over Darnold. And like Addison said, Austin Eckler's active. They do expect a normal workload for him, and I'm playing him. His ceiling might be a little lower, like we talked about yesterday, but I'm playing him. Saquon is also officially active, he was yesterday. But there's reports coming in where it's kind of iffy on, does he receive a full workload, no limitations, or is he just going to see a limited limited workload. I'm erring on the side of caution. I think unless you have a really strong pivot, you're still starting Saquon, but just expect like running back 2 numbers, not his top 5 upside this week.
Love it. What about, I mean, obviously, as we're getting these things in, Eckler, we talked about him yesterday. You want to just briefly give us an idea of what you said on Eckler yesterday as far as your trust in him?
Yeah, he's a guy who's, if he's healthy, he does carry top 5 upside just from a PPR standpoint. Like Addison said, Washington's defense, that front seven's tough, so I think they're going to throw. His even dealing with the hamstring strain, which is mild, he still got practice in late in the week. He still carries that PPR upside. So the injury risk does not outweigh the upside for me. I'm confident in starting Eckler.
Addison, we're all going to look back and remember the Wayne Gallman versus Mike Davis wars of the offseason in 2021. Gallman was listed as the RB3 and then inactive today. Mm-hmm. Is Mike Davis getting a full workload against this Philadelphia Eagles team?
I think so, for whatever that is also worth as well. But I mean, he showed that he could be good out of the backfield as a receiver, at least in the Christian McCaffrey role with the Panthers last year. So maybe that is kind of what we see a little bit more with the Atlanta Falcons and, in Arthur Smith's new offense against the Philadelphia Eagles. But we've also seen as well, Todd Gurley had games last year where he was very fantasy relevant as an RB2. He was actually an RB2 over the first 11 weeks of the season in 2020, getting the majority of the workload for the Falcons, mainly, averaging about 15, 16 carries and maybe another 3 or 4 targets. So if that is the workload that we can expect from, Mike Davis, especially with Wayne Gallman inactive today, I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for from a guy, especially if you kind of went 0 RB or, you really punted your second RB2 just to stream and you have Mike Davis. I think he's a pretty solid start today if you really need him.
I think there could be a lot of points scored in that game. And I think, I look at the coach, Arthur Smith, and what his tendency has been in his career. He could want to establish the run. And the main guy, the only guy he's got outside of Cordell Patterson, basically, is Mike Davis. So let's fire him up. Jeff, this is a perfect question for you based on the tweet that I saw this morning from you. With Trey Sermon out, do I start Javonte Williams, Jamal Williams, or Michael Carter?
Javonte Williams easily. DeAndre Swift's healthy. He's a guy we talked about yesterday. He was coming off the groin strain. He's been healthy the last 2, maybe 3 weeks. So I don't anticipate Jamal Williams getting a big workload. Michael Carter, I don't anticipate him getting a big workload either. Well, Michael Perrine and Josh Adams are inactive, but they're still rolling with Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson. Javonte Williams, Denver will likely be playing from with a lead. Melvin Gordon's there, but out of these running back 2s, you're picking my boy.
I think your tweet was something like, if you don't start Javonte Williams, I assume you love misery. Is that right?
Yeah, along those lines. I quickly learned that I can't just post a Stan post without people questioning, legitimately question, like, do I play him over DeAndre Swift?
Yeah.
Just a fanboy tweet.
Yeah, you'll learn how Twitter works one of these days, Jeff, no doubt. Addison, like another one that came through that I think is really interesting is Keelan Cole is inactive, which there was a lot of talk about him too. So is this just Elijah Moore's season? Is he just going to the moon today?
It's happening today. Him, Kyle Pitts, all the rookies are getting it today. I'm so excited for Elijah Moore. He was actually, I hope you guys, if you watched the video that I posted on this YouTube channel, I said that you had until 1 p.m. Eastern time today to trade for Elijah Moore at a relatively cheap price compared to what he's about to do. Because, if there was an odds-on favorite, in my opinion, for this year's Justin Jefferson, I think it's Elijah Moore out of this wide receiver class. And, we could see it immediately today with Corey Davis and Elijah Moore basically being the only 2 wide receivers for the Jets.
Love it. Chris, Detroit BC checks in. What's up, Chris? Appreciate you tuning in. And then another Chris. He wants to know, Jeff, we'll start with you. How many footballs is Ja'Marr Chase going to catch today?
5. And
out
3
of how many?
Out of how many targets?
Yeah.
9.
Okay. I like it.
I'll
5
give him
for,
over
but
50%.
does one of those go for a touchdown?
They're playing Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give him a touchdown. It'll be
All
a screen
right.
pass. He'll get some yak. He'll get a touchdown.
Love it.
Nice.
Do you like you are really big on watching a lot of these college guys. I know, Jamar Chase has had a lot of things. Like, are you worried at all about his catches, his drops, any of that? Do you think that's kind of normal for what you would expect, or do you think there's reason to worry?
Normal, not really. Well, he took a full year off, so I mean, hard to say what normal is. We don't typically see that from guys who are drafted, especially at 5th overall. I think I've posted a little bit on how and again, I haven't worked for an NFL team, so take this with a grain of salt. But with how Zach Taylor has approached it, apparently Chase has been working a lot with tennis balls, working on coordination. What I see, though, is an issue with him catching a ball in traffic or with a safety bearing down on him. So it's like, you got to get in there and hit him with pads, prepare him for contact. He's fine catching. He catches the ball if no one's around him. You have to prepare him for accepting contact. So that's the one, how Cincinnati has handled that, and then Burrow's return of not giving him many preseason snaps.
Good question coming in here. Addison, start with you. I have to sit one player between Eckler, Metcalf, Deontay, and Jacobs. Well, this is like a humble brag, J-Dub. This is like, oh, wow, your team is so awesome. Leaning towards sitting Jacobs. Is that the right call? What do you think?
I think so. It's Baltimore, right? And Jacobs is coming in with a little bit of an injury as well. Jeff, I think you ran through that yesterday, right?
Yeah, it's not confirmed as turf toe, just an undisclosed toe injury. But he suffered that. He's been limited in practice. The Raiders brought in Peyton Barber, and they did bring in Kerryon Johnson for a visit. I don't think they ended up signing him. But those moves just make me Gruden tends to not give Josh Jacobs a big role if he's coming in with an injury. So I'd be sitting Jacobs here.
I agree as well. Yep. I'm actually sitting Jacobs for DeAndre Swift in one of my leagues today. So,
and we all should be watching for Metcalf's injury, right, Jeff? I mean, you touched on that a little bit. You want to briefly touch on that?
Yeah, I think it's just something. It was something to monitor. I'm playing DK. Just know, don't be frustrated if he goes out there and gets 7-8 points. He's coming in with a little calf strain that he suffered on Friday. He was downgraded to limited. He's playing. So I mean, if DK's playing, you're playing him in fantasy. Just don't get frustrated if he puts up kind of a bust game.
Very good. I am continuing to monitor social media and our Twitter page, and this one came in from @CaliFreak07. Wants to know if we can pick one: Marquez Callaway, Tyson Williams, or Laviska Shenault. Addison, pick one.
I'm sorry, Cal. I'm going with Tyson Williams. I mean, on the flip side, they're playing the Raiders, and I expect that they're going to be winning and leading in the majority of the game. And Tyson Williams being really the only guy in town that really is integrated into the offense, knows the offense. I know that they brought in Le'Veon Bell and Latavius Murray and Devonta Freeman and all of that, but at least for this week, maybe the next couple of weeks, this should just be Tyson Williams getting the majority of the carries in the backfield. So I'm going to trust the volume that he's going to receive there. Marquez Callaway, does he get shadowed by Jair Alexander? I feel like that's a real possibility, and that could be bad. And then I don't trust Jaguars players outside of James Robinson today. So I'm just going to go with Tyson Williams and bank on the volume.
You worried about the Houston Texans defense?
Not so much. I'm worried about the Urban Meyer offense.
True. Jeff, how about you? You're pretty big on Tyson Williams. What do you think?
Well, yeah, but I'm big on Laviska Shenault too, especially against Houston. Yet I keep finding myself benching him. So I'll go with Tyson Williams. I think in order, I would say Tyson Williams, Shenault, then Callaway. Only because with the Green Bay factor, Jair Alexander factor, I would still go with volume here. just because I don't expect Latavius Murray, if they get into the goal line or inside the 5, I don't expect Lat to get those touches. It'd be the guy who's been practicing all camp,
I'm just glad we got Dernis Johnson a little bit early this year, so I am not starting Tyson Williams. I'm starting Laviska Shenault in this Cali Freak. So, yeah, let's go back here. We've got, appreciate the question, P2 Thar. Let's see, Chris. He owns more in 6 of 7 of his dynasty leagues. I don't remember which more this is. But here we go. Mike Washington checking in from Facebook in the Flex PPR. Mike Davis, Laviska, or Tyson Williams? Another Tyson Williams question. And with all these vets being signed in Baltimore, is Williams still the one to own? Thanks, guys. Great content. Good luck this week. Go Big Blue. Do you guys realize Tyson Williams is 25 years old? I just want to make sure I'm throwing that out there. And this is his first time being active for a game, assuming he's active tomorrow. Addison, what do you think?
Mike Davis. We talked about that a little bit earlier, that Wayne Gallman's inactive. Mike Davis should see the majority of the touches out of the backfield in the running back room. So I'm going to trust what I saw from Mike Davis versus what I'm projecting for Tyson Williams, and go with him. And again, I'm like Jeff. Like, I want to like Viska, especially this week, but I just keep finding myself sitting him, and that's really sad. And that if that's going to be how we approach Viska for the entire 21 season, where like we can't start him against Houston, like our confidence for Viska for this year, I feel like is going to be pretty up and down every single week. So, but I'm going Mike Davis.
That's a really good point. If you're not going to start him against Houston, who are you going to start him against? I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think I still say Mike Davis just because he's the only guy there right now. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, unless Arthur Smith just blows all of our minds and gives Kadero Patterson 20 touches or something, you got to go Mike Davis here. I do think Laviska has like a 2-touchdown game in him today, but again, it's just, I mean, I keep finding myself benching him, so it is what it is.
Yeah, Mike Davis is all of a sudden now going to be really fascinating to watch, because I think some of us expected it was just going to be a full-on committee, and immediately we get Wayne Gallman out, and man, that changes a lot of things. I think, some of our assumptions, and that's what happens every week 1, right? That's why we love it. That's why we're excited. So many things we thought we knew all of a sudden get changed in week 1, and we realize how little that we knew, but this is going to be an awesome thing to watch. And interesting from Jeff. He thinks maybe Debo gets some carries with Sermon inactive. What do you think?
Some fancy little end arounds, huh?
Yeah, interesting, no doubt. And Twin Caliber UK. Hey guys, stuck between starting 2 in PPR format. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Russell Gage. Tempted to drop Jacobs due to injuries and matchup. To drop him.
You don't drop.
Jeff, are you dropping Jacobs?
Only if it's, I mean, not even if it's a 4-person bench, Yeah. I don't know why you would drop him. But, here I'm still going Barkley and Gage. Only because Gage, I think Gage carries a good amount of upside as the wide receiver 2 there. And they're playing Philly. So, well, yeah, wide receiver 3. Yeah.
Are you
good point.
Are you worried at all about the injury that he mentions here? Is there any reason for you to think that would be a reason to not trust him?
Well, for starting, yes. But also,
he said tempted to sit Jacobs.
He clarifies. To
okay.
Yeah.
No.
Well, then, I was just about to say something on dropping. I'm like, you're still not dropping. So, yeah.
But injuries, are you worried about him? The toe injury is what we talked about yesterday.
I am worried about the injury, but I'm sitting here trying to think, does the injury affect me that much to where I'm sitting Jacobs for someone like Gage who relies on targets? Jacobs will still see volume. But I mean, he could get 12 carries for 40 yards and no catches, that's
right.
4 points versus Gage if he gets. So I don't know. What do you guys think in that end?
I think I'm with you. I think it's Barkley and Russell Gage because I also really like the matchup for Philly and Atlanta. Like that one
Yeah.
could be a really high scoring game too. So, going with Russell Gage and that upside there, maybe Kyle Pitts takes a little bit more time to get integrated. So if that's the case, then Russell Gage could be that wide receiver 2 today in targets behind Calvin Ridley. So
He was interesting stat on Gage. I looked this up for SFB. He was top 8 in targets on third down from Matt Ryan.
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, there you go.
Addison, you've been a big proponent of Kyle Pitts over the offseason. So speaking of Atlanta, we finally get to see what happens when Kyle Pitts shows up in an NFL uniform for the first time, even though he's already the tight end 1, according to Dynasty ADP. Addison, what do you think? What do we get to see? Does he just go berserk today or what?
Oh, I'm here for like 8 for 101. I'm so here for it. I think that we need to have some sort of realistic expectations. Like I think anywhere from like 4 for 50 up to that 8 for 101 that's like a wide range of production today and fantasy points. So I think anywhere from the low end to the high end is well within play today, especially against the Philadelphia Eagles. But it will be fun, and I'm gonna every single time he catches the ball, I'm gonna like victory lap him already. but like man, there's so much opportunity because he is better than Russell Gage, I think already. And the Falcons drafted him at the 4 spot, the highest the tight end has ever been drafted. He's going to be moving all around the formation. We've seen that in training camp videos. We saw that in the preseason where he was lined up next to the tackle and then moved to the side and stuff like that and caught that 20-something yard reception in the preseason. Matt Ryan is obviously going to have to throw just because it's the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to throw. So Calvin Ridley's going to get his. He's totally fine. I have a prop bet in for him over 95 receiving yards. I'm not worried about Calvin Ridley. And then it's just Kyle Pitts, I think, could very realistically have a top 5 tight end week in week 1.
Jeff, I want to ask you about one specifically that it's always tough when your guy that you're not sure is going to play is in that 3:25 or 4:25 time slot, afternoon time slot. So Odell Beckham, things seem to be unsure, like it's status to be determined. They're talking about going through the warm-ups before their kickoff and making a decision from there. Yesterday, you speculated that maybe Kevin Stefanski is playing a little bit of games with this. Is that, now that you've had a chance to look a little bit more, are you still on that side? You still think Odell Beckham's playing?
Yeah, I think he's going to play. I just the overall question marks. He still hasn't gotten many full practice. I think this last week was the first time he was in full pads and full go. I did see something this morning that said he hasn't taken a hit in practice yet too. So that factor, the rapport with Baker factor, he's very much a wait and see for me. I mean, OBJ would be in my wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 range, just based on other guys' matchups and potential upside. He's kind of a sit versus someone like Courtland Sutton. Like I'd rather play Courtland Sutton than OBJ this week.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. That's so if you have Odell Beckham or let's say Russell Gage, what do you think about something like that? You're going to go ahead and slot him in because he's playing in that early game?
Yeah, I would go with Gage. Again, I think OBJ plays. I have overall snap concerns, usage concerns, rapport concerns. Yeah.
Gotcha. Very good. So Addison, let's jump back over to some of the things we were talking about as far as starts for this week. And I know you did a little bit of work on who you're most excited about starting. Who would be your start of the week?
I was going back and forth between 2. And they're both running backs. And the first one that I've already kind of mentioned, I'm not going to pick him now just because of the inactive list. And we've already talked about who my start of the week is actually going to be now. But the other one that I was going to pick was James Robinson playing against the Houston Texans. Houston was the worst defense in run defense and worst in fantasy points allowed last year to the opposing running back. So, James Robinson, I think, getting the majority of touches. I don't know. Hopefully Urban Meyer doesn't play in some sort of mind game and have Carlos Hyde like split carries with him. That would be really stupid. But, he had pretty solid production against Houston last year. There was a game where he had almost 100 rushing yards and a touchdown. Another game where he had 4 or 5 receptions last year in the 2 games against Houston last year. So I think that James Robinson could be a really, really good play this week as my secondary start of the week. My first one is now Raheem Mostert. It already was. I was already debating between him, even with I saw some hype on Twitter, people saying that Trey Sermon could be a sneaky DFS play, especially at his like $3,000 price or something like that. But now that he's inactive, it is freaking wheels up for Raheem Mostert. They've been saving him all preseason. They didn't want him to, even have an opportunity to get hurt in the preseason. They've been saving him for this matchup against the Detroit Lions. I mean, I don't think 150 yards is out of the question, rushing yards. And I mean, he could get 80 of that in 1 carry. And
really good.
It's really how much volume that he actually ends up getting is just going to determine how high his ceiling actually is. Like, I think even if he gets 10 carries because they're trying to save him for down the line and they're really blowing out the Detroit Lions, I still think on 10 carries, he could have 50, 60, 70 rushing yards and maybe get that early touchdown. Maybe he's the first one to score for the Niners and get them up 7-0. But I have so much confidence in Raheem Mostert this week, and that's why I'm making him my start of the week.
I love both those, James Robinson and Raheem Mostert. I made a couple of I live in a state that hates money, so I had to make some free DFS lineups just because I wanted to participate in the fun that some of you guys are having. But I did include both those guys in my lineups as well. So I think that is really good. We are a dynasty channel, so as some of these inactives are rolling in, I want to ask some questions about some of these guys. As far as, we like to stash some of them on our rosters, maybe at the end of our rosters. But some of these inactives, I think, it might be time to let them go. So are you ready to cut, if you're stashing him, Anthony Miller, who's inactive today for the Houston Texans, Jeff?
I had him in a league that I took over this offseason, and I cut him about 2 weeks ago. So, yes.
And if you're wondering if that's because he hasn't been on the team long, no, Danny Amendola is active today, who got there like 5 minutes ago. That's
horrible.
Yeah. Addison,
well, now Miller has been dealing with that shoulder. He dislocated his shoulder again. Yeah, there's no coming back.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Addison, cutting him?
It's so sad that we're at this point with Anthony Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. And I don't think I would cut him now. He would probably be the first priority cut for, after this week of games are played and stuff like that. I'm dropping the Dynasty Waiver Wire article on DLF, and then there's also going to be an accompanying video of it on this DLF YouTube channel that's going to list out a bunch of guys that you can grab from the waiver wire after this week. So if any of those guys that I'm putting on on that article or in that show are on your waiver wires, I think that you can definitely drop Anthony Miller for one of those guys because, I have confidence that there's going to be some pretty solid options that you can actually use this year or potentially just flip and trade for a future second. If you get that free kind of waiver wire draft pick off of it too. I don't think that's happening with Anthony Miller unless some like crazy stuff kind of happens or maybe Davis Mills gets the start because Tyrod punctured his other lung or something like that. And Davis Mills is like actually good. I don't know. Yeah, that's sad.
I love that you use that as a way to plug your article. That's why you're the best, Addison. Appreciate that. I think this one's pretty easy, actually. Chris says in a flex spot, OBJ or Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore, right?
Yeah, it's Justin Jefferson.
Love it. I'm going to jump back over to some of these inactives because I think some of them really are interesting. He didn't get on the field all year last year. Benjamin got a little bit more hype over the offseason. He's inactive again today. Is it time to just cut bait? Are we done, Addison? Is it officially the end of Benjamin season?
I think so. I'm the only way that I could realistically justify keeping him again through this week. Don't cut him now, but like if James Conner were to get hurt, then I think that makes Benjamin like a lot more valuable to both the Cardinals and to your fantasy roster. So just keeping him, through today, just to see if James Conner survives the day. If not, then I'm definitely fine with cutting Benjamin, a guy that I wasn't really all that confident in. Like I didn't really get the hype coming in this year on a 7th round pick. I'm ready to drop him.
Maybe drop him and pick up Jonathan Ward, who is active and is serving as that third down and might be the one to fill in there if there were injuries ahead of him. So, Jim, listen to me. Oh my God. Let me just tell you, there was somebody on Twitter that called Jeff Jim a bunch of times. And then I took it on as a joke and kept calling him Jim. And now it's in my head. I can't get it out. Jeff, any thoughts there? Like, are you just done with, Benjamin? No reason to waste any room on your rosters anymore?
Not yet. I think I'm with Addison in that sense where I view more as the James Conner replacement, where if anything were to happen to James Conner, I think steps in. The reason he's inactive is he provides a 0 in special teams, and Jonathan Ward does. And Arizona is, their track record, that running back 3, running back 4, they have to contribute in special teams. So I'm holding on to for now. He's probably one of the top priority drops if I have to over the first 2 weeks. But yeah.
I loved him. I wish he got an opportunity somewhere. But PJ, what's up, PJ? We have a bet on Tyson Williams going on. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. But Jamar Chase, or speaking of Arizona, Rondale Moore, half PPR. I'm so excited to see the unveiling of Rondale Moore in this offense. I think it could be really exciting, but I don't think I'm starting him over Jamar Chase. I think give me Jamar Chase. What do you think, Jeff?
This is tough. I think it comes down to if Chase catches the ball or not. I could see Chase, honestly, I could see Chase getting more targets in that offense, but I was reading this morning Rondale Moore because I was trying to figure out if I wanted to play Chase Edmonds in DFS, but thinking, does Rondale eat into Chase Edmonds' upside? Rondale is still third behind Christian Kirk and D-Hop and maybe even AJ Green.
I was going to say, I think maybe even AJ Green, who I think, if nothing else, Kyler Murray had a lot of good things to say about AJ Green. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get targets.
Yeah, I think I'd go Chase here.
Addison?
Yeah, I agree as well. And I think it's just mainly because of the volume. I think that Chase has a safer volume floor in week 1. And while Rondale Moore might get touches, manufactured for him, kind of like what we saw a little bit in the preseason with how he was utilized, I still think that the high fantasy point production targets and that type of those touches aren't going to be there for Rondale Moore initially, and they will be there for Jamar Chase. And I think, Joe Burrow is probably just going to throw the ball about 40 times today as well against Minnesota. And, Chase could realistically have 7, 8, 9 targets. And even if he catches 50% of those, I guess, he's still going to have a solid floor even in half PPR.
Joe Burrow needs to call Tom Brady and figure out how to deflate some of those footballs a little bit before the game, and then maybe we'll be fine. Maybe that's all he needs.
I think they need to paint white stripes on it. That was what the problem was, right?
Chris says thanks. And if you're like Chris and you have questions you want us to answer, that's what we're here for. We got about 20 more minutes, and then we are going to be off. We got 50 minutes before game time now. I'm so pumped. I'm ready to get this thing kicked off. Dynasty Stonks. He asked a question here. Hey guys, just tuned in. I have mostly dynasty teams with one redraft left. Rankings aside, based on the situation and matchups this week, would you flex Juju, Damien Harris, or Elijah Moore? Addison, start with you on this one.
Dang it. Oh man, this one's tough because I've been loving Elijah Moore all week, all day. Damien Harris, we haven't really talked about Damien Harris or like this Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots matchup at all. That one's going to be really interesting. And Ramondre Stevenson, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, he's probably going to be limited because of his injury as well. So that could mean that Damien Harris gets solid workload as the standalone back in the Patriots offense. And we know he's not going to get targets. We've known that forever. You're not playing Damien Harris for that type of workload. But without Cam stealing red zone touches, assuming that the Patriots can get down into the red zone enough for opportunities against Miami Dolphins, even in Mac Jones's first start. And then Juju. I think I would flex Juju, to be honest with you. I think I would. Juju was a top 10 wide receiver over a little more than the last half of the season last year. And I think Big Ben's just going to have to throw a whole bunch, and Juju could just kind of like with Chase, have 7, 8, 9 targets and just have kind of that nice floor. But I think he still has some upside against the Buffalo Bills in a shootout matchup. So I think it's Juju. I could be persuaded, though. You guys could change my answer.
Jeff, do you want to persuade him against that?
Yeah, that one's tough. First off, I think Patriots Dolphins play at 125, so we'll see the inactives later. I won't be shocked if Ramondre is just inactive. He dislocated his thumb. It's been a week and a half now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's inactive. But
that's West Coast 125 for anybody watching.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Stuck in that. I'm not a huge fan of Juju really at all. But I was looking at his usage, at his game logs from last year, and Addison's right. Like he put up some solid PPR points for fantasy managers. Elijah Moore's tempting here, but I think you honestly have to go Juju in the flex.
I don't have any Juju, so I can't say because I also agree. I don't love him. He's the most likely to touch the ball the most in terms of him and Elijah Moore, right?
Yes.
He's going to get more targets?
Yeah.
I think so. Maybe.
It's probably him. Damien Harris is interesting in that matchup against the Dolphins, though. I expect him to get a lot of work. He's just not going to catch the ball as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could be like what Jeff was saying with Josh Jacobs. Like if he gets 40 rushing yards and doesn't catch the ball, like that doesn't really help you.
Nope, that's true. Noah checks in, says what's up to only Addison. I'm going to pretend like I'm not hurt by that, Noah, but okay. I have the Bills D and Deontay Johnson. This is a good strategy question. And they play each other. Do you think that will be a problem? If Deontay scores, my D loses points. Addison, is that a strategy you think about when you're setting your lineup?
Yes and no. I have that problem in one of my redrafts as well, where I have the Niners defense, but I have TJ Hawkinson. So, it's that if one does well, the other gets hurt by it. But I mean, there's certainly opportunities where, especially with defenses and stuff, where they can gain points outside of losing points because of touchdowns and scoring and stuff, through a lot of sacks, through fumble recoveries, any interceptions that Ben were to throw today. I'd be very curious, Noah, who other defenses could be that you could potentially play real quick. Because I do really like Deontay Johnson. I think out of the 3 Steelers wide receivers, I think he's the safest for sure. And I love his ultimate upside and target share that he had last year, and I think carries over into this year for sure. And it's just, that Bills D, it could be fine just because of how much Ben throws. There's a lot of opportunities for sacks and interceptions and potential fumbles. But if they do give up 30 points, that's not helping either.
Yeah, that O-line, it's going to get a big test today because the Bills defense, dicey. That defensive line, it's stacked. It's interesting. I would be curious to see who's available on the waiver wire as far as defenses, because I do hate this. I hate when I see my offensive player scores a touchdown and I'm excited, but I only net like 2 points out of it because my defense loses points. Something like that. So, Jeff, what do you think? Is this something you think about? What advice would you have for Noah here?
I don't think too much about it, only because defenses, I bank on them getting 2-3 points, and I really don't care. If you have a defense in your league, if your league has defenses, it's not like you don't want to drop the Bills defense just for 1 week and risk someone else grabbing them. So I don't know. I get my upside from position players and then just play whatever defense. So I'm not the best to ask for that question.
A lot of Deontay's points are going to come from being targeted heavily, catching a lot of passes. So I think that
he could go 10 for 100 and never score
and not score. Right. Right. I think in this
Yeah.
case, I'm probably not thinking about it very much because I think Big Ben he's not the same stand in the pocket and just deflect people off of him that he used to be, right? Like, I think if they get to him, they're going to be able to bring him down. So I think continue to roll this out, Noah. D-Rock, he comes in. He started Mike Evans. He's down.
No, me too.
He's got a sad face. Should he start Terry McLaurin or T. Higgins? Leaning towards McLaurin. Addison, let's start with you on this one. Do we have faith in Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, today?
I think so. Curtis Samuel's out, right? Or at least should be out. I don't know if that
he's on IR.
Oh yeah, he's on the IR, so he's for sure out. So yeah, I think it's going to be Terry McLaurin, and I also like Logan Thomas a lot too. And I have a lot of trust in McLaurin and the target share that he can get with Ryan Fitzpatrick, even though they play who I think is going to be an upgraded defense in the LA Chargers because they're all healthy now for week 1, presumably. I still believe in the talent in Terry McLaurin. I still believe in Ryan Fitzpatrick just kind of force feeding him the ball, especially without Curtis Samuel. So I'll go with Terry McLaurin there. And especially because I think McLaurin has that upside, right? If you kind of need to counter what Mike Evans put up for you in a dud, I don't think T. Higgins has that upside. I think T. Higgins might be safer, but not super much safer. But I think McLaurin has the upside that he could put up like 8 for 101 or 9 for 130 and 1, something like that. Like that, I think that's in McLaurin's range, and I don't think that's in Higgins's range.
We are so close to finding out. Jeff, you also agree that McLaurin is the better start here? I'm with Addison.
Yeah, McLaurin carries top 12 upside for me. Fitz, we've all offseason we've seen the stats of Ryan Fitzpatrick. How many times he targets his wide receiver 1. It's a tough matchup, but yeah, I'm going McLaurin. Hey, real quick, if you're watching this, this is a note from one of the 49ers reporters. He posted, "I'm hearing the Trey Sermon inactivation is a coach's decision. Gonna have to earn his way back up the depth chart."
Oh no.
Ooh.
Oh no.
It's almost like a running back who had to transfer because he couldn't beat out Ramondre Stevenson isn't going to be a good NFL option.
That hurts, Addison.
That hurts bad.
Listen, I'm sorry that you guys drafted a better running back 2 rounds after Trey Sermon. I'm sorry that happened, and you guys just don't want to admit it yet.
I like Elijah Mitchell.
It fits right into what Eric is asking here. Hello, boys. Any updates that I might have missed in the past hour or so, other than Moss news, which was never affecting my rosters anyway? Yeah, the Sermon one was the other gigantic breaking news today. And then what Jeff just said. Goodness gracious, that's concerning. If you have Sermon in Dynasty, you can't sell him, really, right? I mean, what are you going to get for him at this point?
Yeah,
I think you could still get something.
You think?
There's Trey Sermon people out there for sure.
There's 49ers running backs truthers as well.
That's true.
Yes,
that's true. Would you trade him right now for a 2nd round pick if somebody offered you that?
I'd probably still want more. Just
me too.
Kind of knowing the class next year, and a 2nd round pick, it's kind of equal value. Like, sorry, that's my dog. Give me something that supersedes his value.
That's a good point. With Mostert's age and with the class next year not being as strong, that is definitely a good point.
You can bet on Raheem Mostert getting hurt and then Sermon, just like last year, they had like a rotation of 4 people that all had, fantasy value just because they were the necessary guy to receive a bunch of the workload in a single game. Once that happens, Trey Sermon's back into everybody's good graces, and then you can flip him. But I think Jeff said it right. Like, I would want more. And by that, I think what Jeff meant was I would want Elijah Moore for Trey Sermon. And
yeah, me too.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right,
Trey
says
I did draft Trey Sermon over Elijah Moore in one league. Horrible decision.
I did that too.
One other note too, and Addison, you can probably touch on this. Robert Spillane suffered an injury in pregame warmups, and he's out. How does that affect the? Sorry.
All the sadness is, of course.
So does that change anything for you for Buffalo's offensive players?
Does that make you a little bit more interested in starting Devin Singletary? If you're desperate.
No, it does not. No, because it's still, there's so many other weapons on the Steelers defense that could contribute and make an impact. I mean, first they've got to get past Cam Hayward. TJ Watt got paid. He's ready to go. We still have Devin Bush. I'm assuming Joe Schobert is going to play, right? I
would assume.
Probably.
And then there you have it. So if Devin Singletary can get past all that.
Devin single carry. I like it.
Single carry. Yep. Yeah.
That's the best Freudian slip we've had right there. Okay. We got a bunch of questions rolling in here. Okay, so Dre says Michael Pittman, Julio, Cortland Sutton, Debo Samuels, Tyler Boyd, DJ Chark, not Chalk, Robbie Anderson. He needs 2 of these. All right. Addison, pick 2 of these.
Sutton and Julio, I think, are the 2.
Okay. All right.
I could be convinced, though. Like, I'm looking at all of them. Like, Tyler Boyd, I think, is safe, but he doesn't have the upside. Michael Pittman has the wide receiver 1 role for the Colts right now with Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz playing today. And against the Seahawks, so they're going to have to throw. And it is the road Seahawks, I guess, too. Robbie Anderson, revenge game. I know that you like that a lot, Cal. I don't like DJ Chark. And Debo, I think, is fine, but I think I would just rather play Julio and Cortland Sutton and call it a day.
What do you think, Jeff?
This is tough. I think I'd go Julio and Robbie. Just thinking overall volume. Pittman's tempting. I think I can think of good reasons, all similar to Addison, of why I'm sitting DJ Chark, Boyd, Debo. Sutton would be tempting for me, but again, I know it's against the Giants, but his first game back, Teddy Bridgewater tends to throw to the open guy, who will be more so Judy than Sutton. I'd like Sutton better if Locke was playing. The only other question I have is Julio. He only had 1 week of practice with Tannehill. He's coming off the injury, but I think he's still
Brown.
What?
So is AJ Brown coming off the
No,
injury.
that's been overblown. Brown's fine. Julio and Robbie, I think, would be the 2 I would pick here.
Julio's interesting to me, especially in that matchup where Malcolm Butler just retired. That's the game where they're projecting the most amount of points or the second most amount of points. So I think Julio is that's the one that jumps out the most to me here. And then I just think Tyler Boyd's going to be targeted a lot. I think they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think the Vikings. Mike Zimmer spent all offseason saying, I am not going to have a defense that bad again, and trying to invest in that defense. And I think there could be some pressure on Joe Burrow. He's going to be looking to get rid of the ball quick. And I think that could benefit Tyler Boyd. So I think just based on volume, I might go Julio and Tyler Boyd there. We got a bunch of questions coming in. So Chris wants to know thoughts on Bryan Edwards' year 2 breakout. Which one of you guys are really high on Bryan Edwards?
I have about 80% rostership, so maybe me.
Okay, yeah, that it's you. Because I think my favorite thing about Bryan Edwards is that he averaged a little bit over 1 target per game last year. That was my favorite thing about him, if I have to say something nice. Jeff, what do you think?
He's consistent. That's what that tells me. Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily high on him. Waller's the wide receiver one there. I think Edwards does get a consistent role. Again, I don't trust John Gruden. So it really could be Ruggs, could be Edwards. Edwards would be that guy where I'd probably want to stash, but I don't think I would ever play him in any single week this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Edwards could be one of those guys that we see on the field running like 40 routes a game and has like 2 targets.
That was pretty much last year.
Yeah, exactly.
He played in 12 games. Like, if people think he played in like 3 games, he played in 12 games and got 15 targets.
No, yeah, I'm not here for it. Like Jeff said, it's Darren Waller. I think Henry Ruggs could be a little bit better in this offense with getting more targets. He only had like 40 something last year. And I still think that Hunter Renfrow is like sneaky. I think he's a sneaky little guy down there in the slot. So once you get past those 3, then I think we're at Bryan Edwards. I don't know about the year 2 breakout.
Is Trey Sermon the new Dante Pettis? That's rough. That's rough.
I think he's the new crap. What was his name? Who was the running back that Shanahan pounded the table for?
Joe Williams.
Joe Williams. That's who it was.
Oh, jeez. Yes.
The new Joe Williams.
But at least Sermon made the team.
Oh, let's see. We answered this one for Dre. Yeah. Eric picked up Mitchell off waivers like 5 minutes ago.
What?
Yeah. Do that.
Why is he on waivers?
Eric. Why?
Do that.
Bro.
Wait, isn't Eric a 49ers fan?
Yeah.
He should have had him already.
That's what I'm saying. Is that there's still disappointment in me that Mitchell was on waivers because he wasn't already on your team. Oh man.
Addison, here, interesting question from Chris. Obviously, we already saw him for this week, but what are your thoughts on Gronk this season? Is he a cheap tight end 1 for a contending team?
Absolutely. He's the tight end 1 overall right now as we stand.
There we go.
And no, I think he's great. And to be honest, I saw a tweet after his second touchdown Thursday night. I saw a tweet that said that Gronk is only 4 touchdowns away from solidifying a top 5 fantasy season at the tight end position, because that's really what it comes down to, is after the top 2 or 3 guys. I mean, depending on how Pitts and Hawkinson and Andrews do, it's basically who has the targets or who has the touchdowns. That's where we're at. So I think it's going to be hard to buy Gronk this year, because I think whoever has Gronk already, especially in a dynasty, is probably a contending team. So it might be hard to acquire them away, especially after a 20-something point performance Thursday. But if you can buy him as a cheap tight end, maybe for a second rounder or something like that, I would absolutely be okay with that for a dynasty contending team.
Interesting note too. He's only 6 months older than Travis Kelce.
Oh
wow!
Weird.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So that makes him dynasty tight end 2, right?
Well, tight end 3. It goes Pitts, Kelce, Gronk.
Oh, that's true.
Since we're talking about weird age things, and we got a Tyson Williams question. Did you know that Tyson Williams is a year and a half older than Josh Jacobs? Jeff, Tyson Williams or Juju or Addison's favorite player, Myles Gaskin? 2 of them.
I literally just traded Tyson Williams for a future second, so that feels good.
Good. Good move.
Today, I would go pick 2. I would go Gaskin, Juju.
Agreed.
Gaskin, Juju. Yeah, me too. Addison, you're with that?
Yep, I'm with that. I'll take Gaskin over Tyson, and I guess Juju over Tyson too.
Dre, no worries at all. That was great. I like DJ Chalk. That's a good. I like that. That's really good. Just like our Devin Singletary from earlier from Addison. That was amazing. Real quick, we have like a minute. Thoughts on the New Orleans Green Bay game? Noah is a Saints fan. So am I, Noah. So, who dat? Any thoughts on that game, Addison?
Well, being that I'm from Wisconsin, or at least I'm living in Wisconsin right now, I feel sorry for the Saints smackdown that the Packers are about to lay on you. Aaron Rodgers' MVP Super Bowl campaign begins today.
Ooh, here we go. Jeff, are you a little bit worried about the injuries on their offensive line?
Oh, you caught me. I'm a fraud. I didn't look at the offensive line injuries.
I think, but
Usually I do. Usually I do too.
I think Bakhtari or whatever is I don't know all the details, so but I do know they're not at full strength. So
they have a lot of new. Yeah, they have a lot of new offensive linemen too. Yeah, I think Green Bay takes this game. The one, obviously Callaway has the target bump. I'm still not sure if I want to play him, just with Jair there. What do you think about? And Cal, you would probably know best. What do you think about Lil Jordan Humphrey?
I like your comment that his name should be Big Jordan Humphrey. And then you got a response that said he was probably much smaller when he was born. That's why he was Little Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah.
Oh, Twitter can be fun sometimes. And this is fun. And yes, Noah, who that? And we are out because we are an hour. We got about 30 minutes before game start. And I just want to thank Jeff for taking his time to help us out, help us answer a bunch of questions. Addison, amazing as always. Make sure you're checking both these guys out. Addison does a bunch of solo videos on the channel. I might even try my hand at one or two of those this week. We'll see. And make sure you check it out. Ask DLF on Tuesday nights. And Jeff, do you have anything coming out this week on dynastyleaguefootball.com or anywhere else that we should know about?
I'll be doing the injury previews or injury write-ups, I think posts on Wednesday, just from any injuries that occur this week, and then any injuries that carry over through next week.
Very good. Make sure you check out the waiver wire article that Addison mentioned earlier. And if you're watching this, just check down below. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that subscribe button and then smash that thumbs up button. Make sure you give us that thumbs up and leave a comment. Whatever we get right, whatever we get wrong, go ahead. Let us know about it in the comments right there. And any other questions, you can just DM Addison directly and ask him anything you want. So for these guys, for dynastyleaguefootball.com, we appreciate you tuning in and good luck in all your matchups today.